I've been thinking a lot lately about time. How we can't let go of time past, how we focus on time coming up, and how we lose sight of time now. I get so afraid of the future that I hold on to the past with clenched fists, and I miss the sweet moments of the present as they pass through my fingers like water. Those we look to grow old and fade. Those we love separate and become distant over time. These reflections make me wonder, what will my legacy be? Will I have a story to tell at the end of my days? And what understandings of this journey called life will I realize and pass on? All these things weighed on my mind as I received a permit to float down the Rogue River in southern Oregon and contacted an experienced boat captain. The Rogue is a nationally protected river by the Wild and Scenic Rivers Act of 1968. One of the 8 original rivers dubbed Wild and Scenic in order to protect their ecological significance from any changes that would otherwise disrupt their flow. There's only one boat captain I know wild and scenic enough to guide me through such a place. This guy, my Uncle Mark, King Louie.
God, I'm scared. I'm fucking scared. I don't know. Fucking please, Mr. Custer. I don't want to go.
Starting from when? A long time ago. Well, I was a carpenter and in the union for, well over 30 years. And before that, I did septic systems.
He's been a carpenter, a firefighter, a migrant worker, and even worked the Renaissance Fair for a while. And he knows a thing or two about living.
The best part was flying in. And the exciting part was when you're running for your fucking life. You know? You'd hike in, most times it was helicopter, you'd put you on a ridge and you'd cut the fire down or up a ridge, one of the two. Started finding out what they were doing. It's like, wow, that sounds really neat. Going down, that sounds neat. 3 days on a river, that sounds really neat.
I've looked at him as a mentor in recent years, his home in the country a refuge. He's lived a pretty full life and is recently retired. Him and his wife, Deb, in my eyes, epitomize keeping a young, wild spirit alive even though their bodies grow old and tired.
Deb goes, you got a tent, right? I go, yeah, right. We got a tent, not a problem. We open up, we're like, holy shit.
It was almost divorce.
Had to drive back to Grants Pass and buy a tent.
No, that was just the first day.
That was the first day.
Louis has seemed older to me in recent years, his step a little slower and his face with a few more wrinkles. I see images of my grandmother in him, whose last memories I have of her were in her final stages of life. It's a little heavy to think about. Those who we've looked to our whole lives, growing old and passing on forever. I feel a need to grasp for their legacies, something that I can remember them by, learn from, and honor them by.
I know I'm getting old. I'm definitely getting old.
What's that feel like?
Good and frustrating. Good in some respects, frustrating. Good in the fact that you're really able to give a crap about some stuff, but frustrated because you don't have the strength that I used to, and I don't have the get up and go that you'd like to have to get out there and do all the things we used to like to do. Sometimes when you wake up in the morning, your body's sore, you feel pretty damn old. Just a matter of the attitude you carry with that old as you feel, you know. Mm-hmm. I feel pretty old, but it's pretty goddamn good, you know. I earned it.
The trip was 4 days down the river through a pristine wilderness, unplugged from the imprints of human civilization. I needed the rawness of nature to decompress from life's tensions and deal with the current rut I'd been in for some time. I also wanted to take advantage of this one-on-one time with my uncle, to pick his brain for any wisdoms or advice he'd learned over his long, rich life.
Get out and camp. Go out in the wilderness and listen to the silence. That's about the best advice. Get away from the city, you know.
I kept persisting that Louis give me some concrete lessons learned throughout his life that would form his legacy to me, as if he was an old sage that had everything figured out. But what I kept getting were stories of life, love, people, and places.
As tall as that 5-gallon bucket was out of the water when it jumped. The back was getting moist with water. All that gear in the back was underwater. Before you go to work, a little stick fire and cook tortillas, have a pot of beans, and make burritos before you go to work. included everybody. The whole crew would eat. Out of that experience is the way those Mexican laborers treated me. Man, they're awesome.
I did see the writing on the wall that this is too easy to live this way until you get old. There's a great lifestyle living on the beach, getting high, getting by.
After connecting with him on the river, it occurred to me that he was no different than I, trying to make sense of the world and appreciate the experiences we've been given. Days were spent on a sun-soaked raft drifting through space and time, imitating flies that fish would want to eat, and listening to stories of old, of past trips down different rivers, of past trips down the same river. I'd imagine a younger Louis rafting down the same river, experiencing this same wilderness, and I'd wonder to myself if it meant for him then what it means for me now. The river teemed with life and loss. Waterfowl showed their recent hatchlings how to navigate the currents and find food. Eagles looked for daring critters to prey on for their own survival. Flies would hatch, surface, and fly out into their short life, and salmon struggled to make it back out to sea, battered and beaten on an epic journey to their place of birth which would claim their lives. It was all a surreal beauty. The color of the trees, the sound of the bubbling water, and the movement of the grass in the wind. The scale and connection reminded me of our place in the universe and of the fleeting nature of life. Generations come and go, leaving only the stories of their encounters on this earth behind. Maybe this was my Uncle Louie's legacy to me, getting to know who he is and listening to the stories he has to tell.
He fell in the fire and he had rain gear on.
Maybe there's some wisdom to take away from this as well.
Me and another guy grabbed him and rolled him out,
At the end of life, when our material goods no longer provide us with any comfort, it's these moments, these experiences we have to cling to remember, and to cherish. The Rogue River continues to flow on for now, from the snows of Crater Lake to the coastal surf of Gold Beach. Day and night, gurgling, splashing, and indifferent to our thoughts and worries, its wisdom's available for us, our grandchildren, and their grandchildren, should they seek out its tranquil canyon and turbid waters. A legacy bestowed onto us from previous generations. It's a beautiful, humble thing to look up at the canyon walls and muse that perhaps they look just as they did 100 years ago. May these places forever continue to remain wild and scenic into the future so that we can find solitude and solace amongst the waters. Perhaps someday I will take my nieces and nephews, or perhaps children of my own, down the river of time that flows non-stop through the seasons and the years and the generations to come. And perhaps they too will cherish those experiences and be grateful for the legacies bestowed upon them.